you ever find yourself just existing, drifting through the constant hum of notifications, headlines, and demands, feeling a quiet, persistent hum of dread about the future? Perhaps it's the sheer chaos of current events, the pressure to always be on, or just that underlying sense of unease that seems to cling to modern life, a vague anxiety about what's next or what might never be. What if I told you that the key to quieting that unease, to finding a profound sense of peace amidst the pandemonium, lies hidden in a philosophical poem written over 2 millennia ago by an ancient Roman named Lucretius? His radical idea, one that even modern science echoes, is breathtakingly simple. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you feel, including your own thoughts and emotions, your very consciousness is fundamentally just atoms and empty space. Now, on the surface, that might sound cold, even nihilistic, stripped of meaning. But Lucretius didn't present it that way. For him, and as we will discover, for us today, this atomic understanding of reality is incredibly liberating, a pathway to clarity and calm that has resonated with thinkers for centuries. Because when you truly grasp the nature of things, as Lucretius titled his masterpiece, you gain an unparalleled rational toolkit to dismantle your deepest anxieties. Our fears often stem from misunderstanding, from the unknown, from stories we tell ourselves about things we can't quite grasp or control. And perhaps the most pervasive, the most paralyzing of these fears is the fear of death itself. Lucretius confronts this head-on, not with spiritual platitudes, but with a perspective so logical, so comforting, that it has helped countless individuals throughout history find solace and courage in the face of life's ultimate certainty. He offers a framework not just for accepting mortality, but for understanding it in a way that frees us to live more fully right now. So, if you're tired of feeling overwhelmed, if you're seeking a grounded, rational approach to navigating the complexities of existence, then join me. In this video, we're going to journey deep into Lucretius's profound wisdom, exploring his epic poem on the nature of things not as a dusty academic text, but as a living, breathing guide for modern life. Our goal isn't just to learn about ancient philosophy, it's to internalize its insights, to equip ourselves with its powerful tools, and ultimately, to find genuine tranquility by truly understanding the nature of things. Let's unlock the ancient secrets to modern peace of mind. Hello everyone, and welcome. Today we're embarking on a journey with a truly extraordinary figure from ancient Rome, Titus Lucretius Carus, and his monumental work on the nature of things. Now, if you haven't heard of Lucretius before, don't worry, you're in good company. He was a remarkable Roman poet and philosopher who lived in the tumultuous 1st century BCE, a period of intense civil strife, political instability, and widespread anxiety across the Roman world. He wasn't just any poet, he was a visionary, dedicating his life's work to translating the profound, life-altering philosophy of Epicurus into beautiful, accessible, and deeply persuasive Latin verse. His singular mission: to illuminate the path to ataraxia, a state of tranquility and freedom from disturbance, by freeing humanity from the crippling grip of fear, specifically the paralyzing dread of capricious gods, the existential terror of death, and the daily anxieties born from misunderstanding the very fabric of existence. He believed that by understanding the true, atomic nature of reality, people could finally live lives of profound peace and reasoned joy. Now you might be thinking, another ancient text. What possible relevance does this dusty old book have for my fast-paced, complex life today? And that's a perfectly fair and vital question. For me, On the Nature of Things is far, far more than just an academic curiosity or a historical relic. It has been, quite literally, a personal lifeline and a transformative guide. I remember a particularly turbulent period in my life, a time marked by significant uncertainty, feelings of being utterly overwhelmed by modern pressures, grappling with a pervasive sense of meaninglessness, and just generally feeling adrift in a sea of information and expectation. It was during that challenging phase, almost serendipitously, that I picked up Lucretius. What I found within its pages wasn't just ancient wisdom, but a surprisingly modern, incredibly practical framework for understanding existence and navigating its inherent challenges. It was like a sudden, powerful gust of wind clearing away a dense fog, helping me to see that many of my deepest, most ingrained fears about what might happen after death, fears about divine judgment, fears about the sheer chaos of the world were, in fact, based on fundamental misunderstandings of how the universe truly operates. It provided a remarkable sense of intellectual liberation and emotional peace, a quiet confidence rooted in reason that has profoundly shaped my perspective ever since. So, if you're settling in for a dry, academic lecture filled with impenetrable jargon and detached analysis, I must gently redirect you. You're absolutely in the wrong place. My unwavering aim here is to make Lucretius and Epicurus not just digestible, but deeply accessible, profoundly human, and utterly, immediately relevant to your contemporary life. We're going to explore these ancient yet evergreen, profound ideas not as distant historical artifacts confined to dusty library shelves, but as living, breathing tools that you can pick up and use right now to enhance your own well-being. This is an invitation to engage with ancient wisdom in a deeply personal, introspective way, to truly find your own calm amidst the beautiful, indifferent cosmos, just as I've been fortunate enough to do. Over the course of this series, we'll systematically delve into the core concepts Lucretius so eloquently lays out, from the astonishing atomic nature of reality and the liberating absence of divine intervention in human affairs, to the comforting mortality of the soul and the true, often misunderstood meaning of pleasure and pain. But we won't stop at theory. Far from it. We'll then bridge the gap between ancient philosophy and modern living, taking these theoretical insights and translating them into a clear, practical plan. This plan will offer a set of actionable principles and concrete practices you can effortlessly integrate into your daily life to cultivate a deeper sense of tranquility, significantly reduce anxiety, and ultimately live with more intention, greater resilience, and demonstrably less fear. This isn't about escaping reality or embracing some esoteric belief system. It's about understanding reality so profoundly, so rationally, that you can finally embrace it fully, fearlessly, and with genuine joy. Welcome to Chapter 1. The universe in a nutshell. Everything is atoms and void. If you were to ask Lucretius to distill the entirety of existence into its most fundamental components, he would offer you a remarkably simple, yet profoundly revolutionary answer. There are only two things in the universe: indestructible atoms and the empty space, or void, in which they move. This foundational principle is not just an interesting philosophical musing, it's a radical declaration that immediately dismantles the need for divine intervention and superstition. To understand why, we must first grasp Lucretius's most crucial axiom, his very first law of nature: nothing can be created from nothing. This isn't just a clever turn of phrase, it's the bedrock of his entire cosmic vision. It means matter is eternal. It cannot spontaneously appear, nor can it vanish into thin air. Instead, what we perceive as creation and destruction are merely rearrangements. Leaves fall, decay, and become soil. Water evaporates, forms clouds, and falls as rain. The stuff itself remains, merely transforming from one state to another. This single, elegant truth removes the arbitrary whims of gods from the equation. There's no divine potter shaping clay from nothingness. There's just matter, always present, always in motion. So what are these fundamental particles? Lucretius called them atoms, from the Greek atomos, meaning uncuttable. They are tiny, invisible, solid, and eternal, and they are not static. Imagine an endless, eternal atomic rain, a ceaseless downward motion through the void. But here's the crucial twist. Sometimes these falling atoms experience tiny, unpredictable swerves. These minute deviations lead to collisions. It is from these countless, ceaseless collisions, aggregations, and dissociations of atoms occurring over immeasurable spans of time that everything we observe comes into being. A galaxy, a star, a mountain, a river, a human being, all are but temporary, complex arrangements of these eternal, fundamental particles. Our bodies, our thoughts, the world around us, all are simply atoms and void, interacting according to natural laws. This simple yet profound model of the universe served to utterly demystify the world for Lucretius and his readers. No longer was thunder the roar of an angry god, or an earthquake a sign of divine displeasure. These terrifying phenomena could now be understood as natural outcomes of atomic interactions, predictable, if complex, events in a purely material universe. This understanding was not meant to diminish the wonder of the world, but rather to free humanity from the paralyzing fear of arbitrary divine powers, allowing us to live with greater peace and reason. Remarkably, Lucretius's ancient insight echoes down the millennia, resonating strongly with our modern scientific understanding. His foundational law, nothing can be created from nothing, is a powerful precursor to the principle of the conservation of mass and energy. Today, we know that matter and energy are neither created nor destroyed, but merely transformed from one form to another. While his specific details about atoms were necessarily limited by the technology of his era, the core conceptual framework, an eternal universe composed of fundamental, unchangeable particles in motion within empty space, remains the bedrock of modern physics and chemistry. Lucretius, in essence, laid the groundwork for a scientific worldview long before science as we know it even existed. Welcome back to our journey through Lucretius' monumental work on the nature of things. In our previous chapter, we laid the groundwork, understanding the universe as an infinite expanse of atoms and void. Now, we confront one of the most profound and persistent philosophical problems that arises directly from such a mechanical view: the question of free will. Imagine, if you will, a universe where everything, absolutely everything, is just atoms moving, colliding, and combining according to strict, unyielding physical laws. If every single event is merely the inevitable consequence of a previous event, stretching back to the dawn of time, then where does that leave our sense of choice? Are our decisions, our thoughts, our very actions merely elaborate chain reactions of atomic movements, predetermined long before we were even conceived? If this were true, our feeling of making a deliberate choice would be nothing more than a powerful, convincing illusion. We'd be puppets of the universe, our strings pulled by an invisible, relentless causality. This paradox This profound challenge to human agency was something Lucretius wrestled with deeply. He saw the world through the lens of atomism, yet he also observed the undeniable reality of human beings making choices, initiating actions, and striving for goals. How could he reconcile the deterministic implications of atoms following laws with the lived experience of free will? His ingenious and admittedly controversial solution lies in a concept he termed the clinamen, which we often translate as the swerve. Picture an atom hurtling through the void. According to the strict rules of physics, its path should be entirely predictable. But Lucretius proposed that, at entirely random and unpredictable moments, an atom would undergo a tiny minute deviation, a barely perceptible wobble or swerve from its expected trajectory. Critically, this swerve is uncaused. It's not a reaction to another atom or a force, it simply happens. Now you might wonder, how can a microscopic, random wobble in an atom lead to something as complex as human free will? The key lies in understanding that this element of pure, uncaused randomness at the foundational level breaks the chain of absolute determinism. If the initial conditions aren't perfectly predictable, then neither are the subsequent macro-level events. Think of it not as chaos taking over our decisions, but as the universe offering a tiny crack, a microscopic degree of freedom within its otherwise lawful structure. This swerve provides the necessary opening for our minds, our wills, to exert genuine influence. It means that the thoughts and intentions that arise within us are not merely the inevitable, predetermined outcomes of prior atomic interactions. Instead, our minds, composed of these same atoms, gain the capacity to initiate new chains of cause and effect. We are not simply reacting to external stimuli, but can begin actions from within ourselves. This is a profoundly empowering idea. It means we are not mere automatons programmed by the universe. We are not passive spectators in our own lives, nor are our destinies etched in stone before we even draw a breath. Our choices truly matter. Our decisions, our efforts, our moral considerations, and our aspirations are not just illusions. They are genuine expressions of our agency, made possible by that fundamental, uncaused swerve at the heart of existence. Lucretius, through his radical concept of the clinamen, offers us a universe where we are free to navigate our paths, to choose our actions, and to shape our own lives. We are not puppets of fate, we are the authors of our own stories. Ancient Rome wasn't just about emperors and legions, it was a world steeped in signs, omens, and the ever-present threat of divine displeasure. Imagine a culture where every natural disaster, a drought, an earthquake, a plague was interpreted not as a geological or meteorological event, but as a direct message from an angry deity. Priests meticulously consulted entrails, augurs watched the flight of birds, all to divine the will of gods who were perceived as fickle, powerful, and often vengeful. This wasn't abstract theology, it permeated daily life. Farmers worried about Saturn's wrath affecting their crops, sailors feared Neptune's fury at sea, and every Roman citizen lived under the shadow of Jupiter's thunderbolts, perpetually trying to appease unseen forces. This constant anxiety, this gnawing fear of divine punishment, was a heavy psychological burden, hindering human progress and stifling joy, tying humanity to a cycle of perpetual appeasement and terror. It's against this backdrop of pervasive fear that Lucretius presents a truly revolutionary concept drawn directly from the teachings of Epicurus. The gods exist, yes, but they are utterly uninvolved in our world. Picture the gods not as cosmic puppeteers, but as beings of perfect tranquility, dwelling in the intermundia, the spaces between worlds, in a state of absolute bliss and undisturbed peace. They are made of the finest, most refined atoms, and their existence is one of pure, unblemished serenity. To imagine them bothering with human squabbles or actively punishing mortals for transgressions would be to attribute to them a restlessness, a concern, a lack that is entirely incompatible with their perfect nature. How could a being of ultimate perfection be troubled by the minutiae of human life, or even be capable of anger, jealousy, or vengeance? Such emotions are imperfections, and the gods, by definition, are flawless. They are models of tranquility, not agents of retribution. If the gods are so indifferent, then what explains suffering, illness, and death? Lucretius emphatically declares that these are not divine punishments. The earthquake that levels a city, the plague that sweeps through a population, the storm that sinks a ship, these are not expressions of divine wrath. They are the natural consequences of the atomic motions that govern the universe. Rivers overflow due to heavy rains, not angry gods. Crops fail due to poor soil or bad weather, not a vengeful Saturn. Illnesses arise from imbalances within the body or external pathogens, not a curse from Apollo. Even our own moral failings, our anxieties and sorrows, stem from our ignorance of nature's laws or our pursuit of fleeting pleasures over true tranquility. By understanding that the world operates according to fixed, natural principles, we strip away the terrifying mystery of divine intervention and replace it with predictable, comprehensible causes. And this, for Lucretius, is the ultimate liberation. Once we recognize the true nature of the gods, their sublime indifference, the shackles of religious fear fall away. No longer do we need to waste our lives in endless rituals and sacrifices, desperately trying to appease cosmic overlords who aren't even listening. We are freed from the paralyzing anxiety that every misfortune is a sign of impending doom or a punishment from on high. This newfound freedom allows us to turn our attention inwards and outwards in a more constructive way. We are empowered to seek knowledge, to understand the true causes of things, and to build a life founded on reason, friendship, and the pursuit of genuine pleasure, which, for Epicureans, meant the absence of pain and disturbance. We are no longer pawns in a divine game, but autonomous beings responsible for crafting our own happiness and meaning, secure in the knowledge that no capricious deity is lurking to disrupt our peace or mete out arbitrary retribution. It is a profound shift from trembling supplicants to self-reliant architects of our own well-being. This understanding is the cornerstone of a truly tranquil life. Welcome to our journey through Lucretius' monumental work on the nature of things. In this chapter, we delve into perhaps his most famous and enduring contribution to human thought, his profound and rational dismantling of the fear of death. Lucretius saw this specific anxiety as the primary poison of human life, an insidious dread that taints our every joy and decision. What exactly is it that we fear? For many, it's a dual terror: the physical process of dying itself, the pain, the decline, and perhaps even more, the terrifying unknown of what comes after. Is it darkness, oblivion, judgment, a disembodied consciousness? These questions haunt us, generating a deep-seated apprehension that can overshadow our entire existence. But Lucretius, with characteristic elegance and logic, offers a powerful antidote. He invites us to consider what has become known as the symmetry argument. Think back, if you can, to the eternity that preceded your birth. Can you recall any distress, any suffering or anxiety during the infinite stretch of time before you existed? Of course not. You were not there to experience it. That state of non-existence, that complete absence of sensation and self, caused you no anguish whatsoever. So Lucretius asks, with compelling simplicity, if the eternity of non-existence before your birth caused you no distress, why should you fear the eternity of non-existence after your death? The two states are fundamentally symmetrical. They are two vast stretches of time where you simply do not exist in a conscious, experiencing form. This argument is deeply intertwined with Lucretius' materialist view of the universe. Remember from our earlier discussions that, for Lucretius, your mind and your soul are not ethereal, independent entities separate from your body. They too are composed of atoms, extremely fine, mobile atoms, certainly, but atoms nonetheless. Just as your body eventually disperses back into the constituent elements of the cosmos, so too does your mind and soul. Upon death, these atoms scatter. There is no enduring self to experience anything. As Lucretius famously put it, where death is, you are not, and conversely, where you are, death is not. You cannot coexist with death. When it arrives, your consciousness has already ceased. This is not a terrifying prospect, but a liberating one. If your mind is merely a complex arrangement of atoms, then when those atoms disperse, your capacity for sensation, for thought, for fear, for suffering vanishes completely. There is nothing left to feel pain, nothing left to regret, nothing left to be anxious about. The fear of what happens after death is rendered moot because there is no you there to experience it. Therefore, to fear death is, from Lucretius' perspective, utterly illogical. It is to fear something that, by definition, you will never actually experience. It is to dread a state of being, or rather, non-being, that is no different from the vast stretches of time before you came into existence. But the implications extend beyond mere logic. This irrational fear, this primary poison, actively robs us of the joy of the only life we have. By constantly looking over our shoulder at the shadow of death, by worrying about what might or might not happen in an afterlife, we fail to fully inhabit and appreciate the vibrant, precious present. We squander our finite time worrying about its inevitable end, instead of embracing its fleeting beauty. Lucretius encourages us to release this burden, to understand that once we are gone, we will be exactly as we were before we arrived, utterly at peace, utterly unconcerned. Embracing this perspective allows us to truly live. It's not about being reckless, but about shedding the heaviest psychological chains. By confronting and dismantling the fear of death, Lucretius offers us a path to genuine tranquility and the profound freedom to savor every moment of our brief, magnificent existence. This understanding, he believed, is the ultimate anxiety killer, paving the way for a life lived with wisdom, pleasure, and peace. Welcome back to our journey through Lucretius on the nature of things. Today, we confront a profound and perhaps challenging chapter. You are your body, the physical nature of the mind and soul. For millennia, humanity has grappled with the mystery of consciousness, often imagining the mind or soul as something separate, intangible, perhaps even divine. But Lucretius, with his unwavering commitment to atomism, presents a radically different perspective, one that grounds our very essence in the material world. He asserts that our mind, or animus, and our soul, or anima, are not ethereal wisps or supernatural entities. Instead, they are very much physical, albeit composed of the most exquisitely fine, smooth, and extraordinarily swift-moving atoms. These are not the bulky, stable atoms that form a rock or a tree. They are incredibly delicate, constantly in motion, distributed throughout our entire being. The mind, Lucretius tells us, is concentrated in the chest, the seat of reason and emotion, while the soul is diffused throughout the body, animating every limb, every nerve ending. Both, however, are fundamentally atomic. To truly grasp this radical idea, Lucretius doesn't just theorize, he offers vivid, undeniable observations from everyday life. Consider, for instance, the immediate and profound effect of wine. A few sips and what happens? Our thoughts become looser, our inhibitions soften, our mood shifts, our judgment perhaps even impaired. Wine is a physical substance, a liquid composed of atoms. How could it so profoundly alter our thoughts, our perceptions, our very personality, if the mind itself were not also physical, susceptible to direct interaction with these atoms? This direct chemical influence powerfully demonstrates that the mind is not an untouchable spirit, but an integral part of the material world. Then there's the converse, the astonishing power of our internal states to manifest physically. Think of intense fear. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your stomach churns, your limbs tremble, sometimes to the point of collapse. A purely mental state, fear produces undeniable, visceral physical symptoms throughout the body. How could an incorporeal, non-physical mind command such dramatic physiological responses if it wasn't intrinsically connected, indeed interwoven, with the body's atomic structure? Lucretius argues these are not two separate realms influencing each other from afar. They are two aspects of the same atomic reality, inseparable and mutually reactive. These observations lead Lucretius to an inescapable conclusion, one that often challenges ingrained beliefs. If the mind and soul are physical entities made of atoms and are so intimately intertwined with the body, then they cannot possibly survive the body's dissolution. When the body perishes, its atomic structure breaks down. The fine, fast-moving atoms that constitute the mind and soul disperse, returning to the vast, universal sea of atoms from which they came. There is no enduring spirit that detaches and lives on. There is no consciousness that persists beyond the integrity of its physical vessel. Just as a cup cannot hold water once it shatters, the mind cannot persist once its physical container, the body, ceases to function. This understanding, for Lucretius, liberates us from the debilitating fear of eternal punishment or an unknown afterlife, redirecting our focus to living fully and virtuously in the one life we undeniably have, here and now. Surprisingly, Lucretius' ancient atomic perspective resonates powerfully with many modern ideas. The burgeoning fields of neuroscience and psychology increasingly emphasize the intricate mind-body connection. When we talk about mindfulness, we are acknowledging how bringing attention to our physical sensations, our breath, our posture can profoundly impact our mental state, reducing stress and enhancing clarity. Conversely, chronic stress, often initiated as a mental state, is now widely understood to have tangible, detrimental physical effects on our cardiovascular system, immune function, and overall health. Lucretius' philosophy, positing mind and body as one continuous atomic system, predates these insights by millennia, yet perfectly aligns with the contemporary understanding that our mental and emotional landscapes are deeply rooted in our biological and physical reality. It reminds us that caring for our physical body is not separate from caring for our mental well-being. They are, in fact, two sides of the same atomic coin, utterly dependent on one another. Lucretius challenges us to embrace a vision of ourselves as unified, physical beings. Our thoughts, our emotions, our very consciousness are not gifts from a supernatural realm, but emergent properties of matter itself, complex arrangements of atoms, dynamic and ever-changing, born with the body and dispersing with its end. This perspective, far from diminishing us, grounds us in the tangible reality of our existence, urging us to live consciously and appreciate the intricate marvel that is our atomic self. Welcome to Chapter 6, the sobering truth about love and desire. For all his celebration of nature's beauty and the universe's grandeur, Lucretius reserves some of his sharpest, most cynical observations for a subject often romanticized: human love. Far from the rose-tinted poetry of his contemporaries, Lucretius presents an analysis of romantic love, Venus, as he often personifies it, that is strikingly modern in its psychological insight, yet brutally unflinching in its portrayal of suffering. He sees it not as a divine gift, but often as a potent form of madness, a source of endless torment. To understand Lucretius' critique, we must first recall his foundational distinction between different types of desires. There are the natural, necessary desires: food, water, shelter, rest, and the basic urge for physical intimacy. These are easily satisfied, essential for survival and well-being, and when fulfilled, lead to a state of calm contentment. Then there are the natural, but not necessary desires, like more elaborate meals or comfortable living beyond basic needs. These are okay in moderation. Finally, and most problematically, come the vain, empty desires, the insatiable hunger for fame, wealth, power, and, significantly, obsessive, romantic love. These desires are artificial, culturally constructed, and can never truly be sated. They promise happiness but deliver only an unending cycle of yearning, anxiety, and frustration. Romantic love, in Lucretius' view, falls squarely into this destructive latter category. He paints a vivid, often satirical, picture of lovers caught in its snare, their irrational behavior bordering on the absurd. Think of the besotted man, draining his wealth on trinkets and gifts, sacrificing his health and reputation, all for a fleeting glance or a moment of feigned affection. He describes how the lover projects perfection onto their beloved, blind to their flaws, even idealizing their perceived shortcomings. A woman with a crooked nose becomes charming or playful, one who stinks is naturally scented, a tongue-tied mute is modest. Lucretius lampoons the self-deception, the frantic letters, the sleepless nights, the bitter jealousy, the endless cycle of hope and despair, the passionate quarrels followed by equally passionate reconciliations, all amounting to a torturous existence. The lover becomes enslaved, their mind consumed, their freedom utterly lost. They imagine themselves receiving a spiritual bond, when in truth they are merely chasing a phantom, an illusion. Their longing, Lucretius argues, is a wound that only deepens with every futile attempt to satisfy it. So, what is Lucretius' solution to this predicament? He isn't advocating for asceticism or the complete suppression of desire. He understands that sexual urges are natural and part of our physical makeup. His counsel is to fulfill these natural desires, but without the destructive baggage of romantic obsession. Engage in physical intimacy, he suggests, but do so with detachment, without idealizing the partner, without seeking a mythical one true love, and crucially, without allowing the emotional whirlwind of possessiveness and jealousy to take hold. Treat sex as a natural physical release, much like satisfying hunger or thirst, rather than a spiritual quest or an act fraught with overwhelming emotional significance. This approach, he believes, allows for the pleasure of the physical act without subjecting oneself to the madness and suffering that passionate attachment inevitably brings. Instead of chasing the volatile, ultimately unsatisfying highs of romantic love, Lucretius advocates for the calmer, more stable, and genuinely fulfilling pleasures of friendship and true companionship. Friendships, built on mutual respect, shared interests, and intellectual camaraderie, offer a far more reliable path to tranquility and happiness. They provide genuine connection without the drama, the possessiveness, or the inherent instability that characterizes romantic obsession. In friendship, one finds a steady harbor, a place of peace, rather than the tempestuous seas of Venus's tyranny. Ultimately, Lucretius encourages us to apply reason to matters of the heart, just as we would to any other aspect of our lives. By distinguishing between natural, necessary desires and the vain, empty ones, and by embracing the steady joys of friendship over the destructive illusions of obsessive love, we can free ourselves from a major source of human suffering and move closer to the serene, untroubled state that is the Epicurean ideal. This ancient wisdom about the perils of idealizing love and the value of sober companionship remains profoundly relevant today. Welcome to Chapter 7, Finding Peace in an Imperfect World. Lucretius, in his profound examination of the universe, grapples directly with a fundamental human dilemma that resonates as strongly today as it did millennia ago. How do we, as fragile beings, find solace and contentment in a world that often feels indifferent, even actively hostile? A world rife with unpredictable natural disasters, devastating diseases, and relentless personal hardships. His revolutionary answer, rooted deeply in his atomic philosophy, points towards a path of understanding nature and, crucially, managing our expectations, ultimately leading to a serene inner state he famously terms atorexia. For Lucretius, the most potent weapon against the terror and anxiety born from an unpredictable world is knowledge itself. He meticulously applies his groundbreaking atomic theory to unravel the very fabric of existence, thereby demystifying the terrifying phenomena that once held humanity captive in fear and superstition. Lightning, for instance, isn't the fiery wrath of an angry god hurled from the heavens, but rather the predictable consequence of specific atoms colliding and separating within dense clouds, generating immense heat, light, and sound. Earthquakes are not the rumblings of divine displeasure, but the natural shifting, collapsing, and recombining of atomic structures deep within the Earth's crust. Even disease, often attributed to divine curses or malevolent spirits, is rationally explained as the invasion of foreign, invisible atoms-minute particles that disrupt the delicate atomic balance and harmony of the body, leading to illness. By systematically explaining these once terrifying occurrences through naturalistic, mechanistic principles, Lucretius effectively strips them of their supernatural dread and replaces fear with the empowering clarity of rational comprehension. We are no longer at the mercy of capricious deities or vengeful spirits, but merely witnessing the inevitable and predictable interactions of matter in motion. This shift from fear to understanding is the cornerstone of his philosophy for living peacefully. This profound demystification of the world, revealing its underlying atomic mechanisms, paves the way for Lucretius's ultimate and most sought-after goal, atorexia, a state of profound tranquility, unshakable inner peace, and freedom from mental disturbance. This isn't achieved through magical thinking or by somehow bending the world to our will, but by a radical acceptance of reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. When we grasp that the universe operates according to immutable atomic laws, devoid of personal whims or moral judgments, we can fundamentally alter our relationship with its outcomes. The hailstorm that ruins a harvest, the tremor that shakes a village, the sudden illness that strikes us down, these are not personal punishments directed at us, but simply the workings of nature's grand, indifferent machinery. This acceptance fosters a deep calm, knowing that while external events may be turbulent, our internal state can remain unshaken. Indeed, a crucial and deeply liberating insight from Lucretius is the realization that nature is fundamentally indifferent, not actively hostile. It doesn't possess consciousness or intentions, and therefore holds no malice towards us. The wind blows, the rain falls, atoms combine and separate, mountains erode and seas recede, all without any awareness of our plans, our hopes, or our suffering. This understanding is profoundly freeing. When we finally let go of the ingrained belief that the world owes us comfort, security, or justice, we can release the corrosive resentment, gnawing frustration, and pervasive anxiety that stem from unmet, unrealistic expectations. We begin to recognize that pain and pleasure are natural, inevitable consequences of atomic interactions and our own biological makeup, not moral judgments or divine rewards and punishments. This awareness allows us to stop taking the world's challenges personally, fostering a resilience born of objective reality. True happiness, then, is not to be found in a futile and exhausting struggle against an indifferent universe, nor in the relentless pursuit of fleeting, external validations that invariably lead to disappointment. Instead, Lucretius sagely guides us towards a profound appreciation of simple, accessible pleasures and, equally important, strategically limiting our exposure to unnecessary pain. Genuine and sustainable contentment arises from the basic, universal joys of life, the warmth of sincere friendship, the satisfying taste of nourishing food, the serene beauty of a sunset, the invigorating coolness of a breeze, or the tranquil peace of a clear and unburdened mind. By actively letting go of insatiable desires, whether for boundless wealth, unchecked power, social adoration, or even the desperate craving for eternal life, all of which Lucretius identifies as profound sources of human suffering and agitation, we free ourselves to savor the richness of the present moment. It's about cultivating a mindset where we actively choose peace by understanding the world and our authentic place within it, embracing the genuinely simple and consciously shunning the complex and superfluous. For Lucretius, true serenity comes not from what we endlessly accumulate, but from what we deeply understand, wisely accept, and thoughtfully choose to value. All right, we've explored the profound insights Lucretius offered millennia ago. Now, it's time to translate those timeless philosophical ideas into a concrete, week-long action plan designed to help you reduce anxiety and cultivate tranquility in your daily life. Think of this not as a rigid set of rules, but as a series of practical experiments inviting you to experience the Lucretian path firsthand. Day 1 and 2. Atomic mindfulness grounding in material reality. For the first 2 days, your mission is to practice what we'll call atomic mindfulness. Lucretius taught us that everything is made of atoms, constantly moving, interacting, and forming the physical world around us. Your exercise is to pay incredibly close attention to this material reality, to your immediate physical surroundings and your own sensations, deliberately grounding yourself. Forget abstract worries and future anxieties for a moment. Instead, truly see the subtle dance of dust motes in a sunbeam, feel the texture of your clothes against your skin, or intensely savor the specific flavors and temperatures of your food. Notice the nuanced sounds in your environment, not just as background noise, but as distinct vibrations. This practice isn't about emptying your mind, but about filling it with the concrete, tangible present, anchoring you in the undeniable reality of what is rather than what might be. It's a powerful way to pull your attention away from internal turmoil and into the stable sensory world. Day 3 and 4, confronting fear, the symmetry argument in action. On days 3 and 4, we'll turn our attention to confronting fear, a cornerstone of Lucretian philosophy. Your task is to identify one small, manageable fear that causes you some level of anxiety. Perhaps it's a fear of mild embarrassment, a minor social interaction, or a fleeting worry about a non-critical future event. Once you've chosen it, apply Lucretius's profound symmetry argument. He argued that just as we felt no pain or discomfort in the infinite time before our birth, so too will we experience nothing after our death. There is no us to suffer. Extend this rational analysis to your chosen small fear. If the worst outcome truly happened, how significant is it in the grand scheme of things? Does it involve your true annihilation, or merely a temporary, often fleeting discomfort? Rationally analyze its power over you. By consciously acknowledging and dissecting its hold, you begin to strip away its irrational power, seeing it for the transient mental construct that it often is, rather than an existential threat. Day 5 and 6, managing desire, observing without acting. For the next 2 days, we delve into the management of desire. Identify an unnecessary desire that frequently causes you stress, restlessness, or a feeling of incompleteness. This could be the urge to compulsively check social media, to make an impulse purchase you don't truly need, or to indulge in a craving that you know doesn't serve your long-term well-being. Your practice is to simply notice this desire when it arises. Acknowledge its presence without judgment, but then consciously practice observing it without immediately acting on it. Allow the urge to simply be there, like a cloud passing in the sky. Resist the automatic impulse to gratify it. Observe how the desire might intensify, then subtly diminish, or even transform. This exercise isn't about deprivation, it's about creating a space between the desire and your reaction, revealing your power to choose, rather than being driven by every passing impulse. It highlights which desires are truly essential for your tranquility and which merely add to your inner turmoil. Day 7, seeking tranquility, savoring simple pleasures. Finally, on day 7, dedicate a significant portion of your day to actively seeking and savoring tranquility. Choose a simple, natural pleasure, much like Lucretius would have advocated, perhaps a walk in nature without your phone, a quiet, mindfully prepared meal, or a deep, undistracted conversation with a friend or loved one. The key is to engage with this experience fully and without distraction. Turn off notifications, put your devices away, and immerse yourself in the present moment. Feel the sun on your skin, truly taste each bite of food, listen intently to every word of a conversation. Savor the experience with all your senses, allowing yourself to fully appreciate the simple, unadulterated joy it brings. This is a practice in experiencing ataraxia, profound peace and freedom from disturbance, not as an abstract goal, but as a tangible state, accessible through mindful engagement with the fundamental goodness of life. This 7-day action plan is merely a starting point, a gentle invitation to begin integrating Lucretius's profound wisdom into the fabric of your everyday existence. Continue to practice these principles, adapting them to your own life, and you may find that the path to a more tranquil, less anxious existence is not as elusive as it seems. We've journeyed deep into the atom-filled universe with Lucretius, exploring the very fabric of existence, the nature of our fears, and the path to genuine contentment. Now, as our exploration draws to a close, let's distill his profound wisdom into a practical, memorable framework, a Lucretian code for living well. These are the three pillars upon which you can build a more serene and understanding life, easily recalled and readily applied whenever you face life's inevitable uncertainties. Firstly, understand reality. Lucretius's most foundational insight is breathtakingly simple, yet incredibly powerful. The universe is nothing more than atoms and the void. There's no divine intervention pulling strings, no vengeful gods manipulating our fates, no mystical forces orchestrating our every step. It's a vast, impersonal, material cosmos. Embrace this understanding. When you grasp that everything, from the smallest grain of dust to the grandest galaxy, operates by natural laws, propelled by the ceaseless motion and collision of these invisible particles, you immediately strip away the power of superstition and baseless fear. Ignorance is the breeding ground for anxiety, for the belief in omens, curses, and divine wrath. But knowledge, clear, rational understanding of how things truly work acts as a brilliant torch, illuminating the shadows and dispelling the phantoms that haunt our minds. Armed with this knowledge, the world ceases to be a terrifying mystery and becomes an intricate, fascinating mechanism you can observe, understand, and navigate with clarity. Let reason be your guide, and the fear of the unknown will begin to fade. Secondly, do not fear death. This is perhaps Lucretius's most comforting and liberating teaching. The dread of non-existence, of what lies beyond the veil, has tormented humanity for millennia. But Lucretius offers a profound perspective shift. Death is not a torment, not a punishment, and certainly not something that can harm you. Think of it this way: recall the time before you were born. What did you experience? What suffering did you endure? Absolutely none. You simply did not exist in any conscious form. Death, Lucretius argues, is precisely the same state. It is a return to non-existence, a dissolution of the atomic configuration that constitutes your conscious self. When you are gone, you cannot feel, cannot perceive, cannot suffer. Therefore, death cannot be an evil to you, because when we exist, death is not yet present, and when death is present, then we do not exist. It is a fundamental truth that frees us from the tyranny of anticipation and the terror of the unknown. Embrace life fully, without the heavy burden of fearing its inevitable conclusion. When it comes, you simply won't be there to experience it. Finally, pursue tranquility. This isn't about grand ambitions or fleeting pleasures. It's about ataraxia, a profound inner peace, an undisturbed calm of the soul. How do we achieve it in a world teeming with desires and distractions? By satisfying simple, natural needs and skillfully avoiding unnecessary emotional turmoil. Lucretius observed that true happiness isn't found in accumulating immense wealth, wielding vast power, or indulging in endless luxuries. These pursuits often bring more anxiety, competition, and disappointment than they do lasting joy. Instead, focus on what truly brings contentment: good health, genuine friendship, enough food and shelter to live comfortably, and the freedom from pain and fear. Learn to distinguish between natural and necessary desires like hunger or thirst, natural but unnecessary desires like gourmet food over plain bread, and unnatural and unnecessary desires like craving fame or endless riches. The latter two are endless pits that can never be truly filled, leading only to discontent. By curbing extravagant desires and cultivating an appreciation for life's simple, readily available gifts, you free yourself from the endless cycle of craving and disappointment. Seek quiet contentment, a stable mind unburdened by irrational fears or insatiable appetites. This is the path to true, lasting happiness, a serene harbor in the tempest of existence. These three pillars, understanding reality, not fearing death, and pursuing tranquility through simple needs, form the bedrock of Lucretius's philosophy. They are not abstract concepts, but actionable principles designed to liberate your mind and bring you profound peace. Internalize them, reflect on them, and let them guide your choices. In doing so, you'll be building your own unshakable fortress against the anxieties and illusions of the world, living a life of clarity, courage, and genuine contentment, just as Lucretius envisioned over 2 millennia ago. This is your Lucretian Code, a timeless guide to flourishing. We've journeyed through the vast, intricate universe of Lucretius, touching upon atoms, voids, the nature of the soul, and our place within it all. It's a philosophy that continues to provoke thought and offer solace, even across millennia. Now, I'm curious to hear your reflections. After exploring these profound concepts, which of Lucretius' ideas resonates with you the most in your modern life? Perhaps it's his emphasis on the tranquility of understanding, his call to face fear with reason, or his atomistic explanation of the world. Whatever it is, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a conversation and learn from each other's perspectives, building a community around these timeless ideas. If this deep dive has ignited a spark within you, if you feel the pull to explore these concepts further and directly from the source, I highly recommend picking up a modern, accessible translation of On the Nature of Things. There are many excellent editions available that bring Lucretius' poetic wisdom to life for contemporary readers, and believe me, it's an experience worth having. Delving into the full text allows for an even richer understanding of his comprehensive worldview. If you found value in this exploration, if it offered you a new lens through which to view the world, please consider giving this video a like. Your likes help these ideas reach more curious minds. And if you're keen on continuing this journey with us, on uncovering more timeless wisdom from philosophy, history, and literature, then I warmly invite you to subscribe to the channel. Becoming part of our community ensures you won't miss our next deep dive. Finally, if you know someone who might benefit from Lucretius' insights, someone who might need to hear this message of reason, tranquility, and understanding in their own life, please consider sharing this video with them. A simple share can open up new worlds for others. Thank you for joining me on this intellectual adventure. Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep engaging with the profound ideas that shape our understanding of the universe and ourselves.